and technology is only as good as the operator. We hopefully have worked out a number of bumps from our 9 o'clock hour. So let me start over. Good morning, happy holidays. Dana and I are excited that you joined us today for discovering strategies to get along and get things done. We intentionally picked this topic because we know that many of you are not only challenged by getting along with coworkers, but given this holiday season, you might be getting together with family members that can be a little bit stressful at times, and we want to give you some extra tips. As we mentioned, this is a new platform. Hopefully you didn't have any difficulties downloading the new application. We are using Zoom platform. If you are hearing me and are still having any technical difficulties not seeing the image, please jot down and call our office number, 515-221-2688, and Dana is standing by and can help you with that. We also want to give you some tips to help you maximize your learning experience this hour. There are some features that we'd like you to do. You can zoom in and zoom out and see as much of the screen on your computer. I know many of you this year had told us that you were projecting in a classroom. So we encourage you to continue to think about sharing this education with the rest of your folks, using this as a monthly webinar series. It will be recorded and posted out on our website. So you can go out if you missed it or want to continue to use it afterwards. And go out to our website, and in our webinar page are the archived programs actually from all of last year or all of this year. There's a couple features we want you to use. We are going to be trying out our embedded video, and hopefully that will work. We had some technical difficulties in the first hour, so hopefully we figured out what that's all about. And the other feature we'd like you to use is a chat box. In the, I think it was the lower panel of your screen, login screen, you were able to select chat. And what we'd like you to do is use that to answer some questions that I might pose, also to write in any questions that you might have and would like me to answer. You'll see, oh, and look at Terry. Terry's already done a hello and happy holidays along with Dana. The way you do it is you change the to, there's a drop down, and what you can do is you can change it and to all panelists and attendees, type in your message, and then you just hit basically enter, and like I just did, it will instantly show up in the thread. So I'm going to encourage you to try that out. Let's test it now if you would. As I mentioned, go to your chat box. You can turn it off or slide it off to the side. I'd like for you to type a message, ho, 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 or whatever you'd like, just to see if in fact that technology is working on your end. All right, thank you, Jay Thompson. R. Nelson, Merry Christmas to you as well. And you'll notice that whatever you type in when you log in is what we see. Happy holidays to Kristen. Jay Weister, from the Bowmans, wonderful. From Bowman, wonderful, you guys. I was just out there, a beautiful location. New hospital that I'm going to be working with throughout the year. All right, so we've got it. All right, you guys are doing awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm technically challenged, as Dana will totally admit to. So here's what we're going to do during our time together. We want to help you understand the DISC styles in the workplace. And I am going to ask in a minute for you to let me know if you have used a DISC tool before or if you've used any others, just so I've got a foundation to know the audience today. We'd like to give you, or we actually have sent you, a sample profile to help you understand the value of this tool and how it can help understand yourself and the challenges when you're working with others. And it's a tool that we have found that we help our clients understand what matters most to folks. So the handouts were attached to the instructions, so hopefully you've copied those and have those in front of you. There's 3 of them. The first that we're going to spend most of our time together is a sample of an Everything DISC Workplace profile. There's also a brochure that if you need to explain to your boss or someone the value of this and bringing it into your workplace, you can use. And we do have our new webinar schedule for the upcoming year, and we have made some changes to the format, so we want to make sure that you are aware of not only the new topics, but of the new format. Now, as a Christmas bonus or a little treat for your stocking, we always ask for feedback. So when you close out of today's webinar, you will, I believe, and Dana, I don't know if I saw that happen, but I believe that you will either be sent an evaluation form or it will pop up automatically. It did not for me, but maybe that's because I'm a panelist. So Dana, if you need to chime in here at any time, feel free to clarify, but you will be asked to fill out an evaluation form. And when you do that, that will automatically flag us to send you a separate email that will go to you that contains a free complimentary Everything Disc Workplace profile. It's about a $16 or $65 value. Dana does indicate that it should pop up. If it does not, please let us know, because that will tell us that you completed the evaluation form, and by doing so, you'll be getting that complimentary profile to fill out. Also attached was the Everything Disc brochure and the schedule. So let me start with a little bit of background behind the profile itself. Oops, I guess, sorry. Let's talk about the webinar schedule. The brochure that you have does indicate not only the schedule of our first 6 months of webinar topics, but we wanted to make sure everybody was aware that from feedback we've received, sometimes it was a challenge to commit to a 1 hour block of time. So we listened, we adapted. So next year, we're going to cut our webinars from an hour to only 30 minutes. So it's going to still have the power-packed information. We just are going to basically shorten the time for greater participation, and hopefully that will fit better into your schedule. And instead of just repeating it twice, we're going to actually be repeating it 3 times at the top of the hour. 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11, and that is Central Standard Time. So you might want to write that on your on the brochure. I know some of you are calling in from different time zones, so it is Central Standard Time. And that registration will open up 1 month in advance. So if you wanted to register for our January, you'll have to go out to our website, and starting on Monday, I believe Dana will have that open. But the reason we're doing that is we were finding that a lot of people were going out and registering for the entire year, which is great, but they'd forget about it. So we wanted it to be kind of more like a, oh, Dana said it's open now. All right, so good. So 1 month in advance of each webinar, kind of like a concert, you can register yourself. And again, feel free to pass this flyer on to others, coworkers, friends, family members. We are so pleased with how our following has increased. The other handout, before we get into the profile itself, that I wanted to bring your attention to was the brochure about Everything Disc. We are an authorized partner from Wiley. Wiley, for over 30 years, has been doing the research behind and the creation of a variety of learning assessments. And I have used personally the DISC tool for over 30, well, I'm thinking it's probably been 30 years. Wiley purchased Inkscape Publishing a while back, but they continue to enhance the use of the tools, and they've gone through a variety of different generations, and we'll be talking about that here in a moment. So to set the stage for today's topic, we're quoting from Richard Branson. To create the kind of workplace and company culture that will attract great talents, you need to make sure that you are hiring, developing, and managing brilliant people. they will in turn make work feel more like play. And I really think that people really enjoy using this tool. So the goal for this hour is to use this as a monthly motivation, featuring one of our inspiring products as well as our programs. This particular product is something that you can use independently on your own, and we've got some tools that will support you as a trainer or a consultant, as well as if you'd like me to come in or Jane to come in. She's also facilitated this as a training program. So in the chat box, like we've used before, what I'd like you to do is give us an indication if you have ever completed a personality profile before. And if so, which one? So if you have, in fact, used DISC, let us know what your style is. If it's a D, I, S, or C, or a combination thereof. I'm seeing several of you have already used Myers-Briggs. That's awesome. Thank you. There's colors, there's animals, there's strength finders. On a personal note, you might have used the 5 love languages. I learned this week that actually there's one called the 5 languages of kindness to use in the workplace that I'm going to take a look at. So I think that's a wonderful application. All right. Now, if you have not, if you would type in the chat box, no, because then I'll know that we're dealing with someone who maybe has not been familiar with the use of an assessment. All right. Wow, Terry, you've been exposed to quite a few different tools, and I know that you use them with your clients as well. So yellow might mean that that's an S style would be my guess. I oftentimes wanted to kind of do a correlation to what all those translate to, because there's a variety of different types of profiles. So we would like to give you, hopefully if our technology works, an introduction to DISC. This video, if in fact it works, will give you an idea of the value of having a language to refer to and understand people in the workplace. But if you're not hearing this, please type in the chat box that you're not.
What if people had their needs written all over them? If you knew that this person wanted more independence, and that person wanted a bit more reassurance, would it change the way you work together? Would it make your job easier? Yeah, it probably would. But that's not the real world. Or is it? Maybe if you had the right decoder, everyone's needs would be a lot more obvious. It would be clear how to work more effectively together, to be more productive, more satisfied. All you would need is a tool to help you understand where people are coming from. This is DISC, your decoder. It gives you a way to quickly understand the needs and priorities of the people around you. It describes 4 basic styles: D, I, S, and C. Here's how it works. First, everyone has a dot. That dot tells you your DISC style. For instance, if you have a D, or dominant style, you probably drive toward results, insist on immediate action, and challenge the status quo. Most likely, other people with the D style share your priorities, even though you might butt heads from time to time. Different styles may find this same D approach to be blunt, intimidating, or insensitive. If you have an I, or influence style, you probably approach work with enthusiasm, enjoy collaboration, and take quick action. Others with the I style probably find your energy exciting, even if the two of you are a little too optimistic at times. Different styles may find this sort of liveliness and fast pace to be sloppy or reckless. Or you may have an S, or steadiness style, which means you like to support people, maintain stability, and enjoy collaboration. People with the S style will probably appreciate your patient and easygoing nature, even if that means there's little sense of urgency. Different styles might see you as overly accommodating or indecisive. And finally, if you have a C, or conscientiousness style, you probably focus on accuracy. use your logic to challenge ideas, and seek stability to ensure consistent outcomes. Others with the C style will like that you prioritize getting things right, even if the two of you can get bogged down in analysis. But for people with different styles, this cautious pace may feel dry, sapping their natural energy. Now, in the real world, it's not always that simple. Your dot can be between two styles, such as in the area between I and S, and you can have 4 or even 5 priorities. For example, in addition to collaboration, enthusiasm, and support, you might also share the priority of accuracy with your C coworkers. The point is, even though you need to recognize your own DiSC style, you also need to know where the people you work with are coming from. Whether you're simply connecting with others, solving problems, or working through conflict, you'll have to stretch from time to time. And using DiSC as a guide, you'll have a better sense of when and why that sort of adapting is so crucial to not only your success, but the success of everyone in your workplace.
All right. Oops, hold on here. There we go. All right. So hopefully as you were listening to that video, you could start to identify with some of those descriptions. You may have been hearing them describe you and your style, or you might also have been hearing the style of others that you work with or live with. What I'd like to do on this next slide is just kind of give you the evolution of DiSC. Way back when it first came out, DiSC Classic, as we now refer to it, was administered by a paper and pencil instrument. In fact, it was like you used a magic pen. For those of you who go way back might remember that. And then you used a coin, which I believe there is some degree of that still available. The second generation was using a software to administer a more customized experience. And now, because everything's gone online, there is a platform called EPIC. And the EPIC platform, which stands for the electronic platform to, let's see, my brain just went dead. EPIC is Electronic Platform Information Center. And you can have your own, we can administer it for you, or what's more important is we like to have our clients bring this platform into their own workplace because it puts you in the driver's seat. You can have your own logo, your company information, you can administer it, which means that if you administer it, the results come back directly to you, and it keeps all the results of the profiles in the cloud. So you basically can administer it for all your employees for not only training purposes, but for managing and coaching. And as a result of the DiSC Classic, it now has evolved. Its Classic is still available, which is the bar graph, if any of you are familiar with that. The energy is now being placed into a family called Everything DiSC. Everything DiSC is the online tool that can be applied given a particular circumstance or training. For instance, there are 6 listed here on the right-hand side. The one that we're going to explore today is we feel the best way to introduce the family into the workplace because it's what it's called. Productive conflict helps you to understand how and why you respond to conflict. I think it's one of the most unique tools that I've ever used, thinking about conflict from the inside out. In other words, why do you behave in a passive-aggressive or a silent perspective? There's a management, there's a leadership tool, there's one relating to sales. We're all in sales directly or indirectly. And what that does is it helps people understand how they tend to approach, communicate, and serve one another. And then next month, or I should say next year, we are going to be featuring the 363 tool. So if any of you are familiar with the concept of doing a 360-degree assessment As leaders, it's nice to have feedback from your peers, from your boss, as well as from those who report to you. So if you'd like more information on that, make sure that you plan to attend the first of our webinar next year. So let's take a look at a sample of the workplace profile that we've given to you. Alex Bradley, it was basically, we don't know the person, it's not a client, we just basically used it as a tool given to us by Wiley to teach or give you an introduction to the value of this instrument. And feel free to anytime, if you want to ask me a question, feel free to do so by using your chat box. Let's turn first into page 2. On the top right-hand corner, there is a box that gives you the cornerstone principles about the Everything DISC Workplace. And I just want to make sure for everybody's sake that we're all understanding that DISC is not a test. It's not something that tells you if you're going to be better or more effective in a job, because each is equally valuable. Secondly, that there are factors that influence your work style, such as your life experiences, both professional and personal. Understanding yourself is the first awareness for helping you be more effective and understanding how to work and get along with others. We feel that learning other people's styles, and as a part of using this in training, you can become more aware of your coworker's style and thus being able to communicate better. And last, and certainly not least, we think that the quality of your relationships, both professional and personal, can benefit by having this type of tool, which in fact creates a language. The language in general is described at the bottom. You'll see at the bottom of this page the 4 descriptions of D, I, S, and C. D standing for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for conscientiousness. For those who were familiar with DISC when it was a bar graph, you'll see that now it is in what we call an interactive map. And we're going to talk about how the results are actually illustrated. But for those of you, underneath each of the words, there is some descriptions. So if at a glance you're curious, you can kind of guesstimate if your dominance by the words that are described underneath each of the different styles. So for instance, people that display dominance are direct, results-oriented, firm, strong-willed, and forceful. People that display an influence are more outgoing, enthusiastic, optimistic, high-spirited, lively. And by the way, you can be a blend. No one is a pure D, I, S, or C. We are all a blend to some degree of all 4 descriptions. The S behavior can be described as even-tempered, accommodating, patient, humble, tactful. And I did mention earlier in the first hour that this is the most predominant behavior style. Research has shown that about 60% of the world's population display this S behavior, which means the majority of the people that you work with, the majority of the people whom you serve, whether it's patients, customers, clients, whatever you refer to them as. And then the last behavioral style are those that are conscientious. Those behaviors are more analytical, reserved, precise, private, and systematic. On the next page, once you complete the profile, this page begins the more customized, personalized feedback. So when Alex looks at this page, it will give him an indication of where his dot fits into on that interactive map. Now, let me give you an idea what that actually tells you. You have 4 different quadrants, and if you look at each of the quadrants, each is colored. And in each of the quadrants are 3 regions. Those 3 regions are described as either a single letter or a combination of letters. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. His particular style is a combination of SI because he's just into the S quadrant, followed very closely with a little bit of an I. And then as a description, he's going to learn more about what that means in narration on the next page. But in this page, what I wanted to do is explain what the dot means. It talks about the close proximity to the edge or the center. In basic terms, the further out, closer to the edge, indicates that there is more energy placed in that particular behavior style. If you are closer to the center, that means that you can flex. In other words, you are more easily adapted to a DISC behavior depending on the situation. And I emphasize depending on the situation. We believe through research that behavior is situational. For instance, I worked with a CEO who once completed the profile, and he said, you know what, this makes perfect sense to me as a leader, because when I'm at work, I'm in charge. I know what's going on. I manage people. But when I get home, I completely revert to letting my wife take charge. So although you might behave at work in a given style, you might choose to or need to communicate with a different style at home, with your spouse, with your children. So let's take a look at, for instance, this slide illustrates the 3 different locations of dots. The first on the left, closer to the center, means that there's a slight use of the S style. The second, more in the center on the line, indicates that it's a moderate use of the SI or IS. And then, then on the far right, because the dot is closer to the edge, it is a strong inclination, or what I say, a lot more energy into that behavior style. On page 4 is, like I mentioned, the most customized results. So given a number of responses that you'll be completing, this page will tell you the story. We believe that with every data that you look at, whether it's a employee satisfaction survey or a patient or customer satisfaction tool, the data tells the story. And it's important for you to understand what the data tells you. And what's nice about this tool, it tells the story for you in very simple terms. So we always have people, or suggest that people go through this page, putting a check mark next to areas that they feel really described you to a T. If there's something that you didn't agree with, feel free to cross through it, but I would encourage you to ask another person who knows you. You'll be surprised that how you see yourself might be not the way that others see you. So this page is kind of a fun way to really get to know you and your style. Now, what I want to do is teach you a little bit about how these Everything DISC workplace profiles are unique. For each profile, whether it's workplace, sales, conflict, or leadership, on the outer circle are 8 words. Those are different depending on the actual Everything DISC profile tool. Those are what's referred to as priorities. In the workplace profile, the 8 priorities are action, enthusiasm, collaboration, support, stability, accuracy, challenge, and results. Those have more meaning. So as you look at page 5, you will see Alex's graph illustrated with some color. So you'll see that there are actually 5 words, 5 words that are bolded in his profile. Now, it doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3 or as many as 5. It doesn't mean good, bad, or otherwise, better than the other. It just means that in his workplace environment, he puts most priority on valuing collaboration. because that is the priority on the outer of the circle closest to his dot. And you'll see at the bottom half of page 5, the very first priority talks and describes he values collaboration. Alex, because you value friendly cooperation, you find it motivating to work on a team. So that describes what that looks like in the workplace. Followed equally with giving support and generating enthusiasm, because that complies with his solid shading. Now there's 2 other words or 2 other priorities that are also important to him, and you'll see that those have lines. So he also believes it's important to take action and ensuring accuracy. And what would be important to do is find out why Alex feels those are additional priorities. With taking action, maybe it's because he is on a team that is experiencing some change, or maybe he's working on a new project, or he's working with a new leader that he needs to feel like he is taking quicker action than in normal. So it's a stretch behavior, but it's something that he is putting energy towards. Then you move on to the next page, and what this does is helps you understand what matters most to you as it relates to your priorities. So this is his page that you can go through and read. And then on the next page, page 6, what tends to motivate him. So if I were Alex's manager, I would want to know, how do I bring out his best? How can I maximize his talents in a way that best utilizes his strengths? So he is motivated, obviously, through collaboration. There's also a list of things that says he enjoys getting things moving, initiating change. However, I'd also want to know what challenges him or what causes him stress. He has a tendency to always say yes. He may overcommit himself because he wants to please. So it would be important for me to know that if I were his manager or if I worked closely with him, because I wouldn't want to overextend or expect things that would make him feel uncomfortable. The next page is a generic page that gives an overview of DISC, the 4 different styles, but it also is a great way to help you understand how to read others. What that means is, in general, like I said, there are 4 different descriptions of each of the different behavioral styles. In each of the different quadrants, there is information about priorities. So if you look at dominance, their priorities are to get immediate results, take action, challenging self and others. It also describes how that particular style motivates others through power and authority, competition, winning, and success. They fear losing control because with your dominant behavior, they want to make sure that they manage or they lead control of a team. They are fearful of losing or they being taken advantage of, and they have a hard time of being or expressing their vulnerability. In other words, they have a hard time admitting that they might be wrong or that they didn't know something. Things that you'll know about a D behavior is that they're confident, they're direct, they can be forceful and risk-taking, and they might also need to be aware of their limitations. These are things that oftentimes cause them or other people frustration. And I will admit, practicing being vulnerable, I'm a combination of DI. So I do acknowledge that I sometimes lack a concern for others, their feelings, their priorities, as Dana will attest. They can be impatient. That's why we're dealing with D's first, because if we don't, they're going to be impatient and move on. And sometimes they can be insensitive. So for each of those different styles, you will learn a little bit more about your style. Now, as I mentioned, this page, and we also have a mouse pad, and I think you can go out and order those mouse pads. They make great stocking stuffers. So if you're looking for any inexpensive stocking stuffer, I know that it's less than $10. You can give everyone a mouse pad, that illustrates these 4 different styles so you can quickly read other people. So whether you're in a meeting or if you're on your computer and you're talking to somebody, it helps you use this tool by asking, if you think of someone and you're interacting with someone at work, and here's what I'd like you to do to try this out. I'd like for you to think about someone that you work with. It could be a coworker that you work very closely with. It could be your boss. Maybe it's somebody that you do a lot of work with in another department. I don't care if you want to, given you're moving into the holidays. Maybe it's a family member that you're going to be spending the holidays with. And then I'd like you to ask yourself, given what you know about them, 2 questions to try to understand which style they might be. The first question is, when you think about the behaviors of this person, are they predominantly extroverted, which means they might be a D or an I? And on the top of this page, you'll see in a white box 5 words that further describe their extroversion. Are they fast-paced, active, assertive, dynamic, bold? Or do they tend to be more introverted, being an S or a C, which might mean that they're more thoughtful, moderate-paced, calm, methodical, or careful? And I always tell people, if you can't figure it out, most likely they're introverted, because you will know or you will see or hear the extroversion of a D or an I. So I'd like for you to put your finger or your pen on either top or the bottom of this page. Keep it there until you answer the next question. Question number 2, do you think of this person as prominently people-focused? And on the right-hand side of this chart, you'll see some additional words of their behavior. They're accepting of others, they're people-focused, they're empathizing, they're receptive or agreeable, accommodating of others, which means they're an I or an S. Or do you think of them as more questioning, logic-focused, objective, skeptical, or challenging of a situation? In that case, they might be a D or a C. So given wherever you left off, on either the top or the bottom, move to either the right or the left, putting that person's name in that quadrant. So just to test it out, what I'd like you to do is use the chat box, and I'd like for you to write down, if you want to write their name, you can. They're in the group, feel free to write their initials, but I'd like you to at least give me feedback if you were able to use that tool. And I know it might be a little bit difficult because you're not as familiar with it as it relates to you. All right, so I got a yes from Terry. Does that mean that you figured it out? Because it's important. Oh, very good. Maybe we got some others that have figured out if they're D. All right, well, we'll give you some additional insights to dealing with that person, whether a D, I, S, or C, on the next several pages in your profile. So once you know, or once you believe to know a little bit more about other people in your workplace, on your team, in home, the next several pages will be of interest to you. So starting there on page 8 is a way that Alex can understand how he tends to react to other people of similar and different styles. So for instance, on page 8, this is his language when he is dealing with someone who is a D style. It has information that talks about the D as a well-respected by the organization, as a go-getter who wants to deliver on their promises. You'll see off to the right-hand side in the middle of the page, you'll see that people with D styles may be blunt, forceful, demanding, and dominant. And then on the bottom of this page, it talks about what motivates D behavior. And like we talked earlier, explained, there are 3 words or 3 priorities off to on the outer circle that indicates that a D is motivated by results, action, and challenge. So it's really helpful for all of you to understand, given your style, how best or how you naturally react to others. Then when you're dealing with others, let me ask, which is easier? to deal with others, changing the other person and how they communicate or interact with you, or change the way you communicate with them. And let me give you an example of how that works. You are constantly communicating and interacting with other people. When you think about change, think about how hard it is to interact or how to change yourself, let alone how to change someone else. But the answer to that question is it's far easier, more likely for you to change yourself than to change or make someone change themselves. I want you to think about the quote here at the bottom. Blessed are the flexible, as they are less likely to get bent out of shape. Now let's turn to page on 12. It starts on page 12, and this really, these next 4 pages also give narrative from your own particular style. So you can use this to help you to become more effective in all different styles. So let's say Alex has a boss who is a D. When he's trying to connect with a D boss, he needs to move more quickly to focus the discussion on the topic at hand, refrain from taking their bluntness personally, and I know that I am guilty at oftentimes, whether I'm dealing with Dana or a client or other coworkers, that I can oftentimes speak before I think. Talk to them about the benefits of including others' ideas and not just focusing in on the bottom results. Other information or insights that might be important when needing to solve problems. Strategies that work best when you're problem solving with a D is to balance your emphasis on the other's feelings. Show them how considering the plan's effect on other people can bring better results. And be sure to speak up. Ds tend to be more vocal, and so as an S, he may or may not feel comfortable or capable of expressing or voicing his concern or his ideas. And then the last way to increase his effectiveness when interacting with a D is when things get a little bit tense. He needs to be aware that hiding his feelings could actually be more harmful in the long run versus speaking candidly. Avoiding just giving in to restore harmony, because you might build up resentment for never having a voice, and speaking up to make sure that your needs are being in fact considered. So those pages or that section is really helpful to being more true to oneself, because each style, D, I, S, and C, on a team is important, and you don't want to feel as though you aren't valued and make a valid contribution. So I would give you this as a challenge. If you think you are working with a D boss, or you're interacting over the holidays with a D style, spend time on page 12. If you're working or living with an I style, spend some time to understand that person on page 13. I'm going to tell you, most of you, all of you, are spending a lot of time with S folks. So like I mentioned, this is the style that the majority of our world's population are. So it would be of great value to understand how to best serve and communicate with an S style. And then finally, because our C styles help keep us on task, the C styles can be described on page 15. All right, let's take a look at page 16. This is a great summary that I really want people to understand, because it takes a look at what things might be a stretch, or what behaviors might not come as easy to you to increase your effectiveness. So again, this page is customized, written in language that can help Alex, or when you fill it out, to help you increase your strategies in 3 different areas. The first, from his perspective, is learning how to be more effective in acknowledging problems rather than glossing over them. Another suggestion would be for him to make sure that he has the ability to follow through on tasks, making sure that he's focused and able to complete an assignment without getting distracted by others or other projects. And the third would be to make sure that he's firm and stands his ground, that he has the right and should express himself to be heard with others or in a team setting. So that concludes the section of this profile that has the most customization. The final pages of this tool are illustrating each of the different styles, one page dedicated to the 3 regions or the 3 combinations of the 4 DISC styles. For instance, you take a look at page 17. Page 17 has the 3 types of D styles. In other words, like we mentioned, there is the pure D style with the dot right in the center. That's the middle description. There's also a combination of a DC and a DI style. For each of those, you'll see the 3 priorities listed underneath. So the first one, DC, their priorities are challenge, results, and accuracy. Those might be, as you think of this coming year, last night we had our holiday Christmas dinner, and we talked about choosing a word that kind of is your theme for the year, or what would be an intentional word. And Sarah, who has been our intern, and she's now gone on and got her master's, I think she said her word was goals. So you could choose a word that resonates well with you from these priorities. And then off to the right-hand side, off to the right of each of the different interactive maps, you'll see what the goals are for that person, how they tend to judge others, how they best influence others, what, given their style or what comes natural to them, what tends to get them in trouble because they might overuse a particular behavior. We feel that sometimes a weakness is simply an overuse of a strength. For instance, as you look at the very top one, a DC style may be so strong that they might be too blunt, or they think they're funny. They tend to use a sarcasm as a way of connecting with people, but it might be understood or come across as condescending to others. Also describes what you tend to do under pressure. Pressure can be defined when you're under pressure or under stress or under a tight deadline. And then it also describes what you tend to fear in a situation. Those are all things that each style should be aware of as they interact with others. And then the last description gives you suggestions on, given your style, how can you increase your effectiveness? Now, what's neat about those 4 pages is each person on a team could identify with that particular description and then start to share it with their teammates. So when we use this in a classroom setting, we like people to come up and describe what they read about themselves that really resonated well with them. And we have some tools, and we're going to talk about, that you can use to understand from a report perspective. So through page 20 is a nice way to begin to understand, if you know the different dots of your teammates, what's important to them, how they communicate, and best interact with each other. Now, on that brochure that Dana sent to you, the second page of that brochure, if you want to turn to it, talks about some of the ways that you can use the profile outside of the classroom. We feel that the Everything DiSC has a much longer shelf life beyond training by using an app called My Everything DiSC. My Everything DiSC is an app that you can download on your computer, or you can put it on your iPhone or any phone that I call your phone today, really it's your mini computer. And the way that it works is, once a person has completed a profile, you then are in think of it like a database. You are in a database that has access to other people. Now, here's the benefit of having an Epic platform or Epic account within your own organization. We can do this for you, but if we give you or get you set up on an Epic platform, and there is no cost, I can tell you how that works to bring it into your workplace, you can then align to people. So let's say as a manager, you want to figure out how to best understand and manage your employees. So you can pair up with another person, and you can do as many pair ups as you'd like. And then together, you can sit down and have a meaningful conversation with what it looks like when you two work together using the results of your profile. Another application is, let's say you're having some relationship challenges with a coworker, or maybe there's conflict, and you've got to figure out how can we get these two people to work together. You might want to be able to use this tool to facilitate a meaningful, non-threatening conversation. So if you want more information, as I mentioned, we are going to offer a chance for you to fill out a profile complimentary as being a participant of this workshop. And then Dana or I will go through and explain not only the results of your profile, but can teach you how to use what we think is a very applicable ongoing tool. Other tools available, and it's described in this brochure, is a couple of other reports. Now, the difference between a profile and a report are things such as training reports. Like we mentioned, a report is something that you can pull a group of people together and understand at a glance what their styles are. There is a group culture report. The group culture report and the facilitator report are oftentimes used when you're wanting to sit down and discuss what kind of team are we? Are we predominantly made up of a group of Ds? Are we made up of all types of different styles? And what's nice about those reports is there's facilitated questions that you can use to answer how it feels to be a particular style in that team. So in other words, if you are an S in a D team, how does it feel? Do you feel as though you have a voice, or do you feel as though you are being heard? The other tool that we like and suggest that you use in the team for your culture, again, we've got several of our clients going through and establishing a culture of DISC. And if you want, we'd be happy to put together a proposal called Launching a Culture of DISC for your workplace. But we encourage teams or an organization, depending on the size, to create posters in the workplace. And at a glance, whether you put it on the bulletin board or you put it on your cubicle, whatever would make sense, these posters actually have a cluster of the dots representing the people on your team. And you can even put your name, your initial, next to the dots. So at a glance or a reference, you can be reminded that when you're communicating in a meeting or face-to-face or on the phone with each other, how best to communicate, how best to be effective. The other resources that we offer, and all of these are further described out on our website, or if you want, ask, and Dana will be happy to send you some samples or more information. There is a facilitation kit for each of the different assessment tools. Each facilitation kit comes with the PowerPoint. Several of the slides I've used today during our webinar. There's instruction on how to create training on it, which you can use as a standalone, or you can use it to enhance existing training. And then there's also certification. So if you would like to get more training on the Everything DISC, let us know and we can get you the schedule of 2019's certification schedule. So with that, what I want to do is kind of leave you with some things to think about for next year. We again commit to offering as a value add to our clients or prospective clients these webinars free of charge. However, we are going to change the format in the new year. We have asked, and you have told us that committing to 1 hour is tough. So we are now going to hold 30-minute webinars. We are going to repeat them. However, we're going to repeat them 3 times in the upcoming year. So at the start of each hour, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, and I want to make sure that on that flyer you write down that it is Central Standard Time, we are going to hold a 30-minute webinar appropriate for you again to attend yourself, or if you want to again make it as a team, a department, or if you're an organization where you can just put it out and people can come to a training room. This is a great way to give people additional education. In January on the 18th, like I mentioned, we are going to introduce that 363 tool. So if you are interested in 2019 of giving for leadership development, feedback to your leaders from others. So what's unique about this one is the leaders don't fill it out. The others that they work with actually fill it out as a feedback tool. We find that this is a great tool to incorporate into performance reviews or for your own leadership development. In February, we are going to explain to you the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. I've been certified in the Patrick Lencioni's book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and this has been an amazing learning experience for teams to help bring them together, increasing their trust, resolution of conflict, commitment, accountability, and better results. In March, we're going to talk about how do you engage today's employees. I know that we've got a variety of different generations in today's workplace, and how can you appeal to the different multiple generations from the baby boomers to the millennials. In April, we're excited to showcase one of our newest training programs called Attitude, Resolving Difficult Situations in the Workplace. It is a brand new training program that we partnered with Sola Interactive to help people deal with those bad apples in the workplace. In May, based on my book, Attitude, The Choice is Yours, we're going to help you stay positive in a negative world. And then the last that we currently have scheduled in June, how to, as a team, show that you care. We only tend to put 6 months out because we want your feedback. We want to know what topic interests you. So like we mentioned, after this webinar, we ask that you take a few minutes, it won't take that long, to complete the survey. Let us know about the new platform. We hope that this Zoom platform was easier for you. We find that it's going to be a little easier for our end to use videos like you were able to hear today. We also want to find out what topics would be of interest to you. And because we appreciate you taking the time on a Friday before the holiday, an extra special appreciation Christmas bonus, we are going to show our appreciation if you fill out that evaluation by sending a separate link. It'll be a separate email sent to you by end of today. Watch to make sure that it doesn't go into your junk mail. And as a result of completing it, either Dana or I will follow up with you and talk through the results and make sure that you know how to use that app called My Everything Disc. Something I just saw out on the chat box, Dana wants to make sure that if you don't see the link to the evaluation form when you close out of this, please send her an email, dana@inspiringsolutions.com, to get the link to the evaluation first off, and then by filling that out to show our appreciation, we will give you that Everything Disc workplace to fill out. So with that, Dana and I thank you for joining us. Thank you for making 2018 so enjoyable for us, and we look forward to serving you in the new year. But for now, we thank you and wish you and your family the very blessed of the holiday season, and do not forget the reason for the season.